I'm excited about today's episode because I think it's relevant for a lot of moms. As moms, we take on a lot, whether we work and balance the work and care of our children, or we are stay-at-home moms. It's a big job, and I think we often feel like we're falling behind. Today, I'm joined by the publisher and owner of Vancouvermomc.ca, Arlene Panganiban, and she shares not only information about the resources and tools about the Vancouvermomca community, but also what she sees local moms needing, and a little bit about herself. I introduce Arlene Panganiban today on Rachel Vexon Connects. Today, it's really a fun episode. It's also an informative and a timely episode. I'm really happy to have on the podcast today Arlene Panganiban. And she just taught me how to say her name in the correct Filipino way. Thank you, Arlene. She is the owner and publisher of Vancouvermom.ca. Welcome to the podcast, Arlene. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel, for having me on your podcast. I'm thankful that I'm able to connect with you and to your audience and basically talk about what's happening with Vancouver Mom.
Sounds great. Well, I said in one of the promotions for the episode, moms, we talk about them on Mother's Day. We talk about them a lot on Mother's Day. And the mom role is a 24/7, 365, and then add on some role. And you have an amazing online community and resources and tools via Vancouvermom.ca. And I'm sure most moms in Greater Vancouver, if they don't use it and connect with it, are certainly aware of it. You took on the role of owner and publisher, Arlene, in 2023 after working in the marketing and event space for some time. So tell me about your prior career and what drew you to marketing, and then what kind of the pivot to Vancouvermom.ca and why that seemed like the right next step for you.
Yeah, well, thanks. That's a great question. So I'm a mom. I have 4 beautiful kids ranging from the ages of 23 to 13 years old. And yeah, like many parents, I've worn many hats throughout my life. I was a stay-at-home mom for some time. I worked in the corporate world, and then now I own my own business. So before Vancouver Mom, I was working in the marketing and events world, and I absolutely loved it. And still this day, I still obviously use my marketing skills for Vancouver Mom. And it's all about being able to bring people together, creating campaigns, and building community moments. And what pivot this and what changed it and how I end up being the owner of Vancouver Mom was life threw me a curveball. I got laid off in November of 2022. And at that time, I kind of panicked. And, when you have a family and you got bills and responsibilities,
Yeah,
it takes a lot as a mom to go through that. And
I bet.
at that moment, I was like, what do I do? Do I go back into this corporate world? Do I go back into looking for a job? But I don't know. At that time, I really felt there was a sign. There was something different that I wanted to. I don't know. I felt like something different had to be like a sign that I needed to do something to help others.
Yeah, so
I
kind
mean,
of a
like I was
purpose.
yeah, there's some type of different purpose that I wanted to do. And I wasn't exactly sure was it like, do I become a freelancer, or do I do something in marketing? And I mean, marketing is so diverse. You could do social media, email marketing, and I don't know, something just came up. I had a mutual connection. I knew the editor of Vancouver Mom at that time, and she kind of reached out to me because she knew I got laid off and I was trying to figure things out. And she had mentioned to me that Christine Pilkington, who was the founder of Vancouvermom.ca at that time, that she was kind of ready to pass on the torch of Vancouver Mom. And I was like, okay, I've followed this platform. This is a great platform when my kids were really young, but at the same time still, checking what things to do on the weekend with my kids. And to hear that she was kind of passing that on because she had other things happening in her life and starting her own other business, I was like, okay, well, maybe connect me with her. Let's see, is this a sign? And so I got introduced to Christine, and right off the bat, we had a great connection, great spark. And she did mention to me that she wanted to find someone for Vancouver Mom who was a mom and was living here locally in Metro Vancouver. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a mom,
Yeah.
and I obviously live here in Metro Vancouver. And the fact that too, I had the background of marketing, so I feel like, okay, this is something where it's an online publication, and I can go in and be able to do something with it without having to have a lot of training.
Yes.
Yeah, I could feel in my gut that this was meant to be, and I kind of worked and did a little bit of things with Vancouver Mom before I actually decided to acquire it and work with some brands and kind of just understand kind of the back end of what it may take to take over this company. And yeah, it's the best decision I've actually ever made. I'm a
Wow.
very traditional and conventional person, so taking risks is very like, I don't take risks as much.
Yeah.
But then as I got, getting older, you realize I don't want to go back to being like, did I regret something I didn't do? And so through talking to like business mentors and friends and family, I was like, you know what? Why don't I just take this risk? Do something, try it out. And, if it doesn't pan out, then life goes on. So, like I said, but this has been the best decision I've made, because I've connected with incredible moms, business owners, and like community leaders. And I've gone to many networking events, shared some powerful stories, and just found a renewed sense of purpose. So, I truly believe this was meant to do.
Sounds like a bit of mother's intuition mixed with woman's intuition. Two
Hmm.
separate things, right? Because we're still our own identity as a woman and as a professional, but also as a mother. And you seem to have both of those things kind of combining into the perfect space where you felt you could make that risk that you say you don't usually take.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right on that.
Amazing. So this whole mummy blogger thing,
Hmm.
I say thing because, people have their own idea about mummy bloggers and what that space looks like and what kind of content is there and what's expected and what's presented. And, there are a variety of family and mommy influencers and blogs. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But what do you feel personally, Arlene, makes Vancouvermom.ca different than other mom/family online resources here in Greater Vancouver?
Yeah, great question again. So I mean, well, like you mentioned, mom bloggers, a lot of mom influencers you see online now, and kudos kudos to them for creating and being a content creator on that. And I've met a lot of them at events, and I always go up to them and I praise them for you know for what they do and being out there and showing what they can do and also building that community. So with going with Vancouver Mom, it's not just a blog as people may think. It's a community hub.
Right.
It's a place where moms can come, and not just for information, but for connection, support, and inspiration. And what makes Vancouver Mom, I think, different is that we focus entirely on the local experience. So not just generally talking about parenting, but we're talking about parents right here in Metro Vancouver. And, things of like what to do on a rainy day, to what are the top, summer camps or
Yes,
spring
thank you
break.
for that, by the way, the summer
Yeah.
camps.
Yes, summer camps are great. And I love when it comes to that season because I get to connect with all summer camps and see what there is that can from different ranges, and it's pretty amazing. Some of the things that I see in some of the camps that are offered, I'm like, wow, I wish I had this when I was younger. So
Yes.
there's being able to have that resource and showing, that to parents and having that access through social media, or people who don't have social media, we have an email newsletter if they become a subscriber, and they're able to see that as well. So that, I think, just having that gives the opportunity and for people to search on there with what they're looking for. And most of the time when they're typing it in, they can find the resource of what they're looking for to do with their kids, or just even being a mom and just taking time for themselves. And so one thing that I'm really thrilled about is there was something, I think before COVID happened, it was called Vancouver Mom to Follow. And so it was a series of local moms who were basically entrepreneurs to professionals, or even stay at home moms. They we wrote, it was like a Q&A article that basically shared their stories, their personal challenges, the juggles of motherhood, everything in between. And I'm excited to have this again, where I can be able to connect with local Vancouver moms and be able to, get to hear them, and they get to share their story, because every single one of us as moms, as you probably know, you as a mom, we all share different stories. We all go through different things in our life, and to be able to share that with another mom, they could read that and feel that they're not alone,
For sure.
and yeah, and feel supported. And you never know, you may be able to connect through them on Instagram and or whatever social media that you're on, and be able to create some type of friendship or relationship because you have that connection.
Yeah, that point of connection is incredibly valuable. I just love the hyper local focus, because there is a different experience to being a Greater Vancouver mom. This is the communities in which we live. These are the challenges we have in our communities. These are the benefits we have. These are the resources and tools we have. And so having that hyper local and really, as you describe it, being an engaging hub where you're able to connect with moms in your area is incredibly valuable for a mom. I know I enjoy the website and all of its resources. I'm getting to know some of them that I didn't know before, which I'll mention in a second. But yeah, it's a great resource. As a mother yourself, Arlene, what do you feel is missing from the digital space that either you brought into your role, or that you plan to, or in the process of, from your experience being a mom, being around other moms, knowing moms, that you're incorporating or want to incorporate into Vancouver Mom does?
Right. So yeah, I think what's missing is authenticity without perfection.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a lot of, curated content out there that can make moms feel like they're not doing enough,
Mm-hmm.
or that they're somehow falling behind, or feeling that FOMO. But the truth is motherhood is messy. It's real. It's full of both beautiful, and it's also there's moments where it can be brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And through Vancouver Mom, I want to share more real life stories, more honest reflections on motherhood, mental health, parenting wins and failures. And we just got to let moms know that we're not superhuman. We try to do the best that we can be, but as a community, and as being moms, we could be there to say to each other, you're doing amazing, and you're not alone. And I truly believe, like I said, community is what makes Vancouver Mom thrive, and for moms to have that sense of resource to go to, or support. And and we are all different moms. There's, and we want to make sure that they're seen. There's single moms. There's moms who have neurodiverse kids or moms who are going through postpartum anxiety. And we want to address that as well, right? There's so much that we go through and we're trying to juggle as much as we can. Back in the day, years ago, it was more of just you being the stay-at-home mom and, the typical dad goes to work. And nowadays it's both parents going to work, right? And then coming home and still having to juggle with making lunches, doing their homework, bringing them to their extracurricular activities. So it can be a challenge for being the mom, but at the same time, it's just knowing and letting moms know that we're not perfect and we definitely have to be authentic and just show the rawness of ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. I am often intimidated by wonderful, wonderful mom digital leaders, influencers, content creators. But when I watch their organization and the way in which everything is presented so incredibly beautifully and perfectly, it does make you feel like you're falling short. I dropped my son off at a birthday party on the weekend, and it didn't say on the invite that it was a swim party. And I thought to myself, I should have researched the venue and known this. I felt like I just had failed him because I'd been working so hard that week. I hadn't had time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm rushing to a Walmart and getting his swimsuit and just feeling like I failed. Right. And those are the types of things that we tend to do. Right. And you feel like we're falling short trying to juggle all these balls. And at the end of the day, I came back, he'd gotten a swimsuit, he was having a blast. And it was more about me kind of, getting into this space where I was comparing. So I love the authenticity. I think it's so incredibly important. As a Filipino woman, Arlene, I think that our province is so incredibly diverse, and so I'd love to know how you address that on Vancouvermom.ca. And then leading into another question, first of all, my words won't add up, but my sincere condolences for the recent tragedy at the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival. I had a wonderful guest, who taught us about the Filipino culture, which I was very grateful for. But as a Filipino woman, so Filipino culture being one that's, we have such a large and a lot of moms who are Filipino, clearly, and also other diverse cultures. So how do you consider this when planning kind of your content and the community for Vancouver Mom?
Yeah, absolutely. So the proud Filipino woman, representation means, means a lot to me and it matters a lot. And, Vancouver is incredible. We have a mosaic of cultures and experiences. And, it only makes sense that the content that we have in Vancouver reflects it. When I think of stories we want to tell, I think about, the moms who've never seen themselves reflected in media. The ones that have many languages at home, or the ones who celebrate Lunar New Year, or like a Filipino fiesta or Diwali. And, I want Vancouver Mom to be a platform where, those stories are also included and they're celebrated. Yeah, as I did mention about, Vancouver Mom and, you're featuring, the moms, but I also, want to also include, contributors who have diversity and welcome them and be able to talk about their culture, because we have we're just a multicultural country, and be able to, get to know about their culture and be a part of it. There's more and more festivals coming up that I would like to go and attend and be able to just be a part of it and to share that, and then for others to be a part of. So yeah,
Yeah.
diversity isn't, is a trend for us. It's the heart of everything we do. And so I truly believe that if we include everyone and have all these cultural experiences and you involve your kids in that, yeah, they grow up to be, I don't know, a loving and kind person to anyone that they meet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it leads back to that authenticity. My son attends a school where he learns a lot about Indigenous culture, and I think that's a great value that I appreciate. And he actually teaches me things, which is really cool. I've spoken to various guests on the podcast as of late who have identified seeing, and I've experienced the same. I have a biracial family, married to a man of color. They're seeing an increase in incidents of racism, so verbal, physical attacks on newcomers to Canada or those who are minorities. How do you address this, or do you address this increase on the website? Have you seen it? Have your contributors seen it? And this is, especially after the tragedy that took place at the Filipino community's Lapu-Lapu Day festival that obviously brought, whether or not that was something that was based on culture and race or not. I don't know that we'll ever know, but how do you address that, or do you?
Yeah, so obviously, racism is here. It's not going away. I've experienced that when I was younger. I lived back in the day in Saskatchewan, and at that time, there wasn't a lot of diversity there. And so being made fun of because of your color, it to this day still brings up a lot of things that are happening in this world. And so, this hits very close to home. And you talk about the tragedy of the Lapu Lapu Day festival. Obviously that was very heartbreaking. It shook our community, and as a Filipino mother and woman, it felt deeply personal. I was supposed to go that day, but something came up, and then I ended up going to an event that night, and my phone wasn't. I didn't have my phone turned on because I wanted to enjoy the event that I was at. And as soon as it was over, I turned it on, and all these messages just kept on like flooding in. And obviously my family, my sister, and they were all thinking, did Arlene go to this? Because she goes to, some festivals and events to capture content sometimes. So knowing that and watching and reading what was happening, it was just so close to home. And you try to make sense of did this is this really happening close to
Yeah.
where we are?
Yeah.
And you kept on asking yourself why. And so when I got home, I hugged my kids and my family tight, and was really understanding of why did this happen. And on Vancouver Mom, there are articles and content written on racism, and talking and reassuring how to talk with kids about that. And again, like I mentioned, we are a multicultural province, and there's a lot of different cultures in Metro Vancouver that we want to celebrate. And it's good to be able to address these issues of racism and cultural respect, and kindness to every family that you meet. And we want to spotlight events and businesses that uplift marginal voices. And even just in my own home, we talk about empathy, respect, and just standing up when something isn't right. And you probably believe this too, but our children are watching us, and through our honest conversations, we can teach them to be kind and courageous children, and they grow up to be adults of this world. Yeah, it's there. And I think as if we just become together as a community and we talk about it, you just hope that your kids are the ones that stand up and respect different diversities and cultures.
Yeah. Yeah. It does come. I don't know if you've seen the meme. It has a parent and a child, and the tongue is kind of going through the child's body out into the school. So just kind of embodying that idea of they're not only listening to you, but they're watching you, and they're seeing your behaviors and your approaches to how you see and engage with and prioritize multiculturalism and what's acceptable and what's not. So it's definitely been something that's been a huge discussion point in our home. It surprises me how much is still in the school that sends me in on my regular marches into the school angry. But I think that's what we have to do as moms, right? We have to advocate for our children and for what's right. But I love how you say it's not a trend. It's really, for Vancouver Mom, it's not a trend. It embodies what you are as a community. And it's a great way to say it. You mentioned neurodiversity earlier, and I wanted to transition to that, and how if you address neurodiversity, it's just something that really I don't know that there are more neurodiverse children than before. I don't believe that to be true. I think there's just probably more diagnoses than we've had in the past. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. I know that I have a 7-year-old son who has ADHD and has struggled in the school system, is now at a school where he is happy and content, which is wonderful, because kindergarten, grade 1 were incredibly painful, mostly for him. But for me as a mom, to see that was devastating. I feel as though our schools and beyond are just not equipped to really recognize what's needed for children who are neurodiverse and the amazing abilities and qualities that they have. When looking at Vancouver Mom, is neurodiversity something that comes to mind when you look at your contributors and content and plans?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, thanks for sharing, what you personally have, your kids having ADHD and you going through that and what you're feeling as a parent. And, neurodiversity and accessibility are key priorities for Vancouver Mom. And like you mentioned, is it like, as a parent too, you wonder, like, is it like, why is all this information now coming up, right? And back in the day when kids had ADHD, it was more kind of like pushed away. Like, okay, he's just a hyper kid. He just leaves the class, walks around, just leave him alone, right? And I think nowadays it is being addressed. I guess there is a name to it. I just think that, every child deserves, to feel included, and that, every parent needs to feel seen. And I think that's why now there's so many things out there, and resources and that people have access to. And I don't know if, I do know some moms who have, children who are on the autism, the spectrum. And, it's finding out that their child is being diagnosed with that, and they feel lost because they're like, oh, well, how come my child isn't speaking? Or how come? And you kind of look at other kids and you're like, why aren't they not the same as my child? And so feeling that, I think with Vancouver Mom being able to have more resources and highlighting more sensory friendly events or inclusive spaces, or even just supporting and having the resource for families to know that there are areas or spaces that they can bring their child in. Yeah, I mean, it's just, when you talk to moms in the community, I think that's what they're feeling. Sometimes they feel isolated because they feel like their child, has different needs. And so, I don't know, I want Vancouver Mom to have a space where parents can find all those local tools and resources, and in the end, being able to connect with parents, and so that they don't feel alone.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great.
Yeah.
It's when my son was first diagnosed, there was a lot of trouble. We had a lot of trouble going through the process of finding those resources and what would work for him, and without making him feel different or lesser than. I think that's always the balance. And so having those resources, I think, is really important. And there's some great ones, This World Is Ours in Vancouver. I'm sure you're aware of it. I've had a lovely owner on the podcast, and it's another one out here in Surrey that my son is attending, that he loves it. But yeah, neurodiversity is definitely something that I think is a top of mind for a lot of moms, especially, little girls also, they present differently, and that can be challenging to diagnose. And so I think a lot of moms are kind of waffling in that space of how to best support their daughter, should that be the case, and how to get that diagnosis. In your bio, Arlene, it states, I'm just going to quote it here: "What drives me every day is the opportunity to connect with other mothers, celebrate local businesses, and shine a light on the vibrant, family-friendly life we have here in Vancouver. Through Vancouvermom.ca, I'm proud to create a space where moms can feel seen, supported, and inspired." So you've spoken to that. It's clearly not something you've just written in your bio. You've spoken, very authentically about that latest data, and what I'm sure you hear about from moms in your line of work. I don't know what your own experience is, but really that burnout and mental health challenges that moms feel, and like we talked about, trying to balance it all and be it all, and the workplace, and doing all of these things, and having your finger on the pulse. I said you had your whole hand on the pulse when I promoted the episode this morning. The finger on the pulse is kind of a cliche now with how people describe things, but just knowing the family space and the mom space so well. How do you feel like moms are doing, Arlene, right now? And I know that that's a general question, and you can't, say you don't know for sure, but you certainly would know better than many. How do you feel moms are doing, and what do you think they need the most right now?
Yeah, so where do I begin? I mean, honestly, I'm gonna say moms are tired. I'm gonna be honest about it. We are doing our best. We love our kids a lot, but many of us are running on empty. And the expectations are really high. But it's like saying, your work life, you don't have kids, to parents are like, you don't have a job, and everything looks like, it's effortless. But you know what, it's not. The truth is that we as moms, we need community, we need support, and just permission for us to breathe. And I don't know, like I know, like, obviously, I did mention, I talked about social media is here, we can't get rid of it, and if you have it, sometimes you feel that FOMO. And when you're watching things, and you're like, why, this life or this mom looks like they're perfect, they're doing it, they're doing everything, but in reality, that's just what they show. You don't see
Yeah.
the reality behind the scenes of what is really happening to these mom, right? She could
Yeah.
be having problems in her marriage life, or things are happening just mentally, right? And you just have to make sure that, I think, with Vancouver Mom, to create a space to say, I'm struggling, and it's okay, and we need to be able to celebrate that, because it's not all about the big wins. And it's okay if we even celebrate the small victories, like
Yeah.
even getting out the door with matching socks,
Yes. Oh, thank you.
right?
Yes. Or not pajamas under our clothing.
Exactly. Or our hair isn't a messy bun, like with me, with messy, just socks. Like, it's just crazy in my household. And when I can find that matching sock, I'm like, hallelujah, thank you. Okay, let's get out of the house. We can go.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's not matching, and you can just even put socks on and be able to get out of the house. I mean, it's just the small victories that we moms can do. You can celebrate that. It's not having to have the perfect things, and what you see, like, again, I said, on the social things. It's what your family does together, and those are those small victories, right? And as long as for me, it's, and my husband, we always want to make sure that our kids are brought up, that they are kind in this world, and that they sorry, they send that out to other people, who they surround themselves with. And we need to make sure that we as moms, uplift each other. Whether it's sharing, mental health, or highlighting, a mom owned business. And it makes a difference. I think it's, again, I talk again about community, and making sure that us moms, connect. And I think we as women, we want connection. And I think when it came to COVID and we weren't allowed to see each other, or I mean, like personally, face to face, it was hard. And now that things are being normal now, you see a lot of connection where moms are creating a space to connect face to face. And I truly believe that, like, you need that connection with moms, because we as moms, we like to, feel each other and hear their stories and feel like, you know what? That's the same. Whatever you're feeling, I'm feeling that too. I felt like I was the only one, but when you hear their stories, you're like, okay, I am not alone. And I feel relief that another mom or other moms are feeling this way. And yes, we do have burnouts, and we need to take time for ourselves, and or just even it's just connecting with other moms and feeling like, you know what, I'm not alone and I can do this and get extra help, and not being
Mm-hmm.
afraid of asking for help. Because I think
Yeah.
we as moms now, we feel, or people are saying, oh, you're a super mom, right? And it's like, I'm not a super mom. I'm
Yeah.
trying to be the best that I can be for myself and also for my family. But there's going to be days where you don't feel well or you don't want to do that. And again, it's okay. You just have to express that to your family and say, you know what? I just can't do this at all. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand that, right? So we're not robots.
No, no, I had a tough morning myself. I had a lot going on, a lot of things going through my head. And my son made me this bracelet at church on Sunday, and I'm still wearing it. I don't know if the screen can see it, but I've had it on since he gave it to me. And it's a nice little reminder, because I was feeling a bit overwhelmed this morning as I was out doing some things with for various clients and jumping on calls and this and that. And I just kind of looked at the bracelet, and my mind was racing, and just came back to, those small victories, those celebrations. My son was proud to make those bracelets, and he knows I love it. And I look at it and I think of him, and my heart is filled. So I've got a little bit more juice there, some more gas in the engine, so to speak, to keep going for the day.
Yeah. And just those little things, right?
So,
I mean, like you said,
yeah,
just even looking, sometimes you pause and you look at the bracelet and you're like, okay, I have purpose here. I'm not alone. And I may feel like I'm burnt out, but just knowing that your kids see you as, a beautiful mom. And I think that's
yeah,
what matters.
yeah. Authenticity with your kids too.
Yes.
Yeah. For sure. I featured and discussed one of the series of films that Vancouvermom.ca did in partnership with Kahani Films. I had Inder Nirwan on the podcast of Kahani Films, and we discussed I Dream as a Mother. Played a clip of it, I believe. And I will play a short sample of it for the listeners on this episode again, so that they can see it. It's just such beautiful work that he did in partnership with Vancouver Mom. Can you talk a bit about this film series, how it came about, and why it was an important initiative for the online community? I just thought it was a really great way to visually illustrate stories, like you said you've done before, of real moms and what they're going through.
Right. Yeah. So the I Dream as a Mother series. So this was done with the founder, Christine Pilkington. I think she did it in 2022. And yeah, this was something that she had a passion about. And till this day, she is very proud of the series. We did talk about it, and she's like, I don't want to let go of this. This is something that is a big part of me. And but yeah, it's shared on our website, and I totally recommend for mothers to, or not just mothers, but for everyone to see. I think there's 8 videos of different moms who are going through different struggles, challenges, and just really showing a story of what moms go through, and the different stories and of what we as mom go through. It's not picture perfect. And I think Inder with Kahani Films. He is a great person, a producer,
He's
production.
brilliant.
Yeah, he just has a great mind with storytelling. And that's what I love about videos and like those type of documentaries where they have storytelling, because then you relate to it, and it shows you the rawness and the authenticity of the video itself. And it's not about just, the picture Pinterest perfect mom. It's a real mom telling, what they've gone through, and, whether they've gone through dreams or they've gone through grief, and just what they're experiencing. I don't know. It's very brave and it's vulnerable, and yeah, I like I said, I recommend for those who haven't watched it to watch the whole series and be able to relate and just watch how the video was just portrayed.
Yeah.
Again, he
Yeah.
talked about Kahani and the films and how he just is just so creative. I can't explain, but just how I watched some other documentaries or videos that he's done, and it's just very captivating. And kudos
Yeah.
for him for having that creative mind and putting a story for, different brands and companies out there. And I think that's what it is nowadays. It's not just showing the perfectness of reality in life. It's showing, just the rawness and what we as mothers or just brands are going through. And I think that's how everyone nowadays is relating to, is being able to see that. And then I don't know, you get to, it's not just like just as a mother, but just the brand itself. Then you get to experience it and be like, you know what, I want to try that brand because the person behind it had a story, versus just buy this product, this is great, and show all the nice things about it. It's showing the story behind the product.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I highly encourage everyone to go on to Vancouvermoms.ca and to check out these videos. Inder is clearly a man, and he's not a mom,
Mm-hmm.
but and this is one of the talents I think he has, in my opinion, is that he does not run the storyline. He lets those in whom he is documenting really present the story in their way and in their truth. So really have a look at that if you haven't already. They're amazing videos that he's created. Inder, I know you watch every episode, so I'm sure you'll see this. I'm kidding, but I'll make sure to tag the videos on this as well. There are amazing practical tools on the website. I didn't know this. There's downloadable color pages.
Mm-hmm.
That may seem like not a big deal, okay, to the average person. My kids ask me for color pages all the time, and I'm Googling, trying to find color pages that aren't going to have me have to subscribe to some expensive service and all this. And I noticed that you had, and not only are they color pages, but they're local color pages of Vancouver places and Greater Vancouver spaces. Really, really neat. And as you mentioned, lists of summer camps, birthday party ideas, so many resources for moms and tools for moms, which is another great thing, all in one place. How do you stay looped in on all of these initiatives and programs that moms are going to need so that you can provide all this information that you do?
Yes,
That's a big job.
it is. Honestly, I listen. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. I go to a lot of local events that I get invited to, or even sometimes if I see an event coming up, I try to message the person who is in charge of that and be like, okay, can Vancouver Mom be a part of this? It looks like it's a fun, family friendly event. Or you just even talking to moms at the park, or even at sporting events that I go to for my kids. I scroll through Instagram, TikTok, and yeah, it's a lot, but I have someone who helps me out, or I have friends and others that will message me and be like, this is a great event, you should check this out, or what is this all about, can you look into this? And so I read every DM and email. And
Okay.
we're, again, Vancouver Mom is truly built by community, moms tell us what they need, and again, summer camps. I'm looking for that, or where is the top brunch spots to go to with your family, or I don't know.
I'm pulling up your Instagram now just so people don't think I'm on my phone.
Like I just recently posted best spray parks in Metro Vancouver, and so that one is a huge guided list of every single spray park in Metro Vancouver
Cool.
that you can go to, whether you're in your own area or if you want to explore and go to another city. So, we take a lot of time to curate a list of what's happening, and we try to keep up with as much as we can, and see if it aligns with Vancouver Mom. We work with a lot of brands, local brands, Vancouver Aquarium, Arts Umbrella, and I don't know, other brands that, that we want to promote through Vancouver Mom. Really, yeah, just get to, so that not only just not moms going on Vancouver Mom, but just the community of parents or people who are even just traveling here into Metro Vancouver, and making sure that, whatever they type in and what they're looking for, that we are ranked on Google for them to be able to search for what they're looking for.
Yeah, what a great resource for visiting moms, families.
Yeah, and I get a lot of messages too, sometimes saying, "Hey, I'm visiting here and coming here in the next month, and what are things to do with my kids who are the ages of this?" So we'll try to send information that are within that age range and be like, "Check this out. This could be a great thing," or "This is what's happening in June. These are all the events that are happening here, and this could interest you to, be with your family, whether it's free or it's paid." So there's a lot of resources and a lot of events that are happening, actually coming up in the summertime. And so, yeah, just keep on checking it out and seeing what there is. And if any moms on here that they don't see it's on there, always DM and message, and, we'll always try to put it together. And that's what we do. We basically just connect with a lot of the schools, any event organizers, local businesses, and just any programs that are happening. We try to make sure we keep up to date with that and let the community know.
Awesome. The social media, just in case you're not following, it's Vancouver_Mom on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And on Facebook. Do you know it off by heart? I'm not
it's
sure.
It's www.facebook, and then you just type in Vancouver Mom. There's no underscore.
Oh, yeah, comes right up.
Yeah, it'll come up.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Instagram page is amazing, links to everything that's happening, but Vancouvermom.ca is easy to remember. So, Arlene, I want to ask you about, different moms have different things to share and offer, as you've mentioned, and they can be an inspiration. They can connect with other moms in different ways, making them feel less alone. Can you talk a bit about your contributors? Who write for the site, for the community, online community, the role they play, and how can one connect with you about contributing? What are you looking for in a contributor to the website? Is that possible for moms to kind of pitch that as something to do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's our contributors are the heartbeat of Vancouver Mom. They're all moms who share their experiences, advice, and just passions through their articles. And a lot of them, and when I talk to clients and brands, and a lot of them are like, "Okay, so tell me more, like we want to work with Vancouver Mom because moms have the buying power, and how can we get in front of moms?" And I find recently a lot is POV, so point of view articles. And so getting some of the moms to go, say, to a summer camp and bringing their child there, and them as the parent going there and being able to experience, what they're going through as a parent, and seeing how, say, the camp or the event that they go to, and what the child also experiences. And then they get to write their point of view of what they went through when attending this event or summer camp. And so I think that a lot of brands are now saying, can we do something like that? Because I really think that's able to really connect with other parents, because you get to really understand, and it's not just, okay, here's the summer camp, this is a list of what's happening. The parent actually gets to explain it. And then if you are actually looking for, say, that summer camp and you read about it, you're like, oh, I didn't know that they offer this program or that program. And then and then it makes you probably want to be a part of that, or for your kid to attend that event. So yeah, if someone wants to contribute, we also have some guest speaker or contributors that come on, and we welcome them with open arms. We always have to kind of just look and see what the topics they want to talk about, and if it actually aligns with Vancouver Mom.
Yeah.
Whether they're trying to, tell where they've gone to and they want to share their experiences. I've had moms who come on and they've gone to different resorts and their experience there. And yeah, just again, other point of view. So, we look for real stories, diverse perspectives, and just, heartfelt content. And so if people are looking to contribute, you can definitely email at info@Vancouvermom.ca, or they can DM us on Instagram at Vancouver_mom.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I have an idea I might send your way. We'll see what you have to think about, what you think about it.
You are welcome as well, Rachel. I mean, if you have any ideas or anything that you would love to contribute, I am open to that. I always love to hear different ideas and topics of what moms go through that maybe is not on our website already, and would love to hear that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's great to see, not just one writer. There's so, different moms writing, different moms sharing, and then you kind of at the helm, putting this all together and making sure that you have various voices and tools and guides. And it really is an excellent resource. And just so people know, I don't have a partnership with Vancouvermom.ca. So this is not I genuinely love the online community and the website, and wanted to share a little bit more about it. So it's a super useful and amazing platform. And being a mom is not easy. Being a parent is not easy. So having that community is really special. At the end of every episode, Arlene, I ask guests if they want to share one or two BC nonprofits that are close to their heart. So are there any organizations that you would like to share today?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, there are two that are very close to my heart. The first one is Mamas for Mamas. So last year, I did a motherhood summit event with another mom, and we wanted to make sure that we had a nonprofit organization and be able to help with one of them. And so Mamas for Mamas was the one that we chose, and we were able to raise some funds for that through a silent auction.
Great.
And we were really happy about the community and what they brought to that event. And so the Mamas for Mamas they support moms in crisis, and they provide, ongoing support to low-income families who are in need. And to this day, they're always looking for donations, whether, you can contribute diapers or gently used baby gear or just financial help. And it's such a direct and impactful way to support, a fellow mom who needs a hand.
All the baby stuff is expensive.
Yes.
Ever notice that? You buy kids socks and they're cheaper than baby socks, but they're bigger, So it's expensive paying for baby things. That sounds like a great one.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. So if you ever want to support that, I definitely would recommend. And so my second one is the BC Burn Fund. I am actually a burn survivor myself. Okay. It's over 20 plus years ago that something happened to me. And, the Burn Fund was there when I needed them most. And I can't put into words, how much that community meant to me, especially as a burn victim. You go through a lot of mental and physical and emotional stress while you're there at the burn hospital to the post, just the whole rehabilitation of that. And so being able to have the support with what the BC Burn Fund has done, they bring a community of burn survivors together. You get to share your stories. They also have kids camps every year. And when something happens like tragically like that to you, you're able to connect with others who are feeling the same way, and you get to share your stories. So I still support their initiatives, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows about Bright Nights in Stanley Park every year.
Yes.
They have a beautiful display in Stanley Park, and that's all done by the firefighters all in BC. They come down and they volunteer. Also, the burn survivors come down, and we're able to come in and help put it up together. And it's a great feeling just knowing that you're giving back and you get to see this beautiful lighted display during Christmas. And it's a way for me to say, thank you. Those are both the organizations that I feel embodies the spirit of, compassion and, and resilience that I see in moms every single day.
Thank you for sharing those and for sharing that story, Arlene. We'll make sure to link to both the BC Bird Fund and Mamas for Mamas on the episode link to learn more about those nonprofits and how people can get involved and support. So thank you. It's just a real pleasure to chat with you today. There's a lot more we could talk about as moms. I'm sure we could probably talk away for hours, but I do appreciate you taking the time and joining me today. I've been joined by Arlene. I'm doing my very best pronunciation here. Panganiban.
You got it. You got that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Owner and publisher of Vancouvermom.ca, who's doing just amazing job of bringing together a community of moms and providing tools and resources. Check out Vancouvermom.ca, their social media presence. And thank you for all you do, Arlene. Moms need you. Families need you. We appreciate you. And thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Rachel. It's been an honor to have myself on here and be able to just really be authentic and raw and talk about motherhood.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Be kind and truly connect. You're listening to Rachel Thexton Connects.